Kia ora and welcome to Beer Club. I'm Luke, and this week we are drinking a beer from the lovely folks at Urbanaut. This is Belleville, a chocolate milk stout. You probably know a bit about Urbanaut. If you've been a member of Beer Club for a while, you'll have certainly tried a few of their beers. And if you ever get to Auckland, it's quite likely that you've been to their beautiful brewery, which is just down the road from us. At the other end of the Auckland Beer Mile in Morningside next to the train station, and they do really, really good burgers, as well as lots of great beers, of course. So yeah, we love featuring their beers and getting them in the boxes because they're pretty creative and do interesting stuff, and they do a heck of a lot of interesting seasonal releases. The styles that I really love from Urbanaut are especially their lagers and pilsners. They just have a really good way with lager yeast and fermentation. So whenever they do seasonal lagers, that's always really exciting for me. And of course their IPAs are great. But what most people love about Urbanaut is their dessert and fruity side of things. So they've really got a reputation in recent years for all kinds of interesting adjunct creative beers. Yesterday I tried a blueberry pie IPA from them, which tasted like a blueberry cheesecake actually. And yeah, Rachel and I tried it at the tap room and it tasted exactly like that. And yeah, I think in the last video I chatted about when they had their clear IPA at Beervana a few years ago, which by clear I don't mean not hazy. I mean, it was actually had no colour to it. It was like a glass of Sprite or something. So yeah, they used a lot of clever tricks to pull all of the colour out of it. And while it wasn't the tastiest IPA, it was an IPA, and it certainly tasted a lot better than a lot of other IPAs I've had that are not completely clear. So yeah, a lot of great innovation and bringing new stuff to a market and an industry where everything's kind of been done. So their blender series of 2 small cans that are sort of taped together, and you can try them individually and then mix them together. Was another example of really, really cool innovation from Urbanaut. And as I said, I say about all the brewers, lovely bunch, because basically I don't buy beer and share it with you people if it's not made by lovely people. And pretty much the sort of people that are behind independent craft breweries in New Zealand are invariably lovely people. They are not doing it to get rich quick, I can assure you of that. And a lot of the crew there are they're really into music. A lot of people that have worked in music and in venues and record stores, and musicians and in bands. So the Auckland sales rep is a lovely bloke called Guy, who is in a really awesome band actually that we had playing here a while ago. So yeah, I've been trying to persuade Urbanaut to open a music bar on a K Road or somewhere and just have lots of gigs all the time. So if you're watching this and you know the guys at Urbanaut, you tell them as well, because I'd love to go to an Urbanaut rock bar. Anyway, onto this beer, which it's a pretty old style. A chocolate beer, dates back to, I was just looking this up actually, because often I have vague ideas of facts before I start recording this video, so it's nice to take a moment to look it up. So I knew that the Olmec people of what is now Honduras drunk fermented booze that was fermented from cacao pods ages and ages ago. It was actually as far back as at least 1200 BC, so well over 3 millennia ago. People in Central America were fermenting booze from the mush that's in cacao pods and getting a buzz on. I think that's one uniting thing that pulls together much of human civilization, making booze out of stuff. And you watch Attenborough documentaries about monkeys that are also getting pissed from fermented fruits and stuff. And looking back to ancient Egypt 9,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, probably ancient China more like 9,000 years ago, there would have been like proto beers that were made out of millet and different grains, and then it was in Egypt where the first I was going to say beer as we know it, but obviously it wasn't really much like beer as we know it. It's been made. And yeah, the Fertile Crescent, that was the dawn of civilization, when hunter-gatherers realized that if they wanted to make beer, they had to hang around and wait for the barley to grow so they could harvest it. So that's when people started farming and making villages and towns, all the way up to where we are now, living in a metropolis across the world, which inspired Urbanaut with their beer names. So obviously Urbanaut comes, well, maybe not obviously, but it's like jammed together, astronaut and aeronaut sort of thing, and urban. So all of the beer, most of the beers are named for parts of cities, suburbs and cities. Obviously this is Belleville. So yeah, thanks to those ancient beer lovers in the Fertile Crescent. There's definitely tenuous connections here somewhere. But yeah, reading about the ancient chocolatey fermented drinks that the Olmec people would have made, yeah, really got me thinking. I would love to drink some of that. I have drank a similar sort of beverage. So much more famously and more recently, the Mayans and the Inca, you'll know about in Central America, made, I think, I don't know how to pronounce that, chocolato, perhaps, which was a chocolate and spiced drink that would have been fermented, but wouldn't have had much alcohol. It's more because you have to ferment the beans to get the chocolatey flavours out. And I went to Cadbury's World in Bourneville in Birmingham many years ago as a kid, and got to try some of this like ancient chocolato sort of beverage that was made as accurately as they could at the Cadbury factory, and it was absolutely delicious. It was just layered and complex and tasty, and yeah, the flavours in chocolate go perfectly with stout. It's just such a natural pairing. So everything that's in this side of the flavour wheel, things that have a roastiness to them, and layered complexity, and so you've got your roasted malts, of course. Stouts and porters became really popular in the 1800s in London. Of course, that's where porter comes from the porters that work in. They would drink dark beers, and the stout porters were the more robust and stronger versions of these porters. So stout and porter, it's all kind of the same thing. Yeah, and brewers these days don't really differentiate between them. So if you feel like you prefer one over the other when it comes to stouts and porters, you probably don't, because they're not necessarily that different depending on who is brewing it. It's a very, very vague style that I won't get into anymore. But the dark malts and the roasted malts, all the malts that you have in beer that you brew with, it's all from barley, but just a different amount of time that it's in the kiln gives it different flavour. So you've got your biscuity notes, your toffee notes, and the amber and those coloured ones, and then the much darker roasted malts. What you put into a black beer like this, and it's only a relatively small amount of dark malt actually. So beers like this, you think it's just gonna be shoveling in all this pitch black coal-like malt. It's more like 10% of dark speciality malt, because it's the Pilsner malt, the Vienna malt, the ale malts, the really pale stuff that actually is way more fermentable. There's a lot more sugar in there. I guess in a way it's kind of like if you have any home bakers, and if you bake with things like buckwheat or rye, you still need to put a load of white flour in there, or wholemeal flour, as the main ballast that the yeast can actually convert into sugars and aerate the bread. Sorry, this is a very, very rambling video. Hopefully you're making some sense out of it. So the point I was talking about roasted barley is that, of course, it was used as a coffee substitute in times of wartime and shortages, because you brew up some roasted barley and it kind of tastes like coffee. And then there's also, you add a little bit of sweetness, and it can taste pretty chocolatey. You can get a very, very chocolatey tasting beer without even having to add any chocolate. So when you add chocolate on top of that, you can really get somewhere that's really, really delicious. So the chocolate they've used here is from Honest Chocolat. So that is a chocolat with no E on the end. Clearly some Juliette Binoche fans were behind the founding of Honest because they're in Matakana. And they do a lot of really cool stuff with single origin and yeah, chocolate is a whole world, the same as beer is and the same as hops are. There's different terroir and different varieties in all parts of the world. Yeah, I love chatting to my friend, also called Luke, who started a company called the Chocolate Bar years ago, and he's an absolute encyclopedic knowledge of a man when it comes to chocolate. It's so interesting how much there is to discover and flavour in the world of chocolate. But anyway, Honest Chocolate are all about that. So they provided some very good and very suitable chocolate to brew this beer with. And it's balanced really nicely. If you're going into it expecting you're going to be having a liquid chocolate bar, then sorry, you're out of luck. It's a beer first and foremost. It's a stout, it's robust. And it does have a lingering sweetness to it. There's a bit of I'm trying to find a nice word for cloying, but I suppose cloying isn't necessarily a bad word because that's kind of what chocolate is like. It sticks around. It's the opposite of a crisp lager. It's a beer that's got great mouthfeel to it, really coats your mouth. And it's a lovely beer to drink at a warmer temperature. So sorry, I should have said this right at the start of the video. If you're taking this beer out of the fridge, maybe pop it in the oven for a few minutes because it's too cold. Just the same as eating chocolate, you definitely want to have it at a warmer temperature so you can taste what the flavours are rather than just lovely icy coldness. And lastly, there's some milk sugar in here. So lactose is sugar that comes from milk and it doesn't have fructose in there. So it's a type of sugar that the yeast can't actually eat and turn into booze for us to ferment. A lot of people say, and I'm sure I probably have said before, that lactose is the only kind of sugar that yeast can't convert for us to ferment with. And that's the thing, that if you add table sugar or sugar from fruit or pretty much any kind of sugar to you give it to yeast to eat, they're going to turn it into booze and you end up with a very, very dry result. So if you chuck sackfuls of white sugar into your brew, then you'd end up with a beer that is not sweet at all. It would just be really high alcohol. So to make a beer that gives you residual sweetness that lingers, you need a kind that the yeast can't do anything with, so lactose is. But there's also different kinds of sweeteners and sugars that don't contain fructose. So I suppose something like stevia as a sweetener would work. And I was chatting to a brewer this week actually that brews a lot of really fantastic like smoothie beers and sweet beers, and we were discussing different kinds of sugars and sweeteners that they could use to make vegan beers and give different aspects of sweetness, because of course not all sugars are created equally. They're good for different things. So anyway, that is why milk sugar is used in this beer, and of course works perfectly with the whole milk chocolate side of things. And milk stouts have had a resurgence in the last, I don't know, maybe like 6 years or so. Milk stouts always used to be linked, in England at any rate, to just very low alcohol beers that grannies would drink from these small bottles. So milk stouts were generally 2.5% or thereabouts, and they were heavily advertised for having great health-giving properties because they contained milk, which is good for you, and oats, which are good for you, and of course we know barley is good for you, and a little bit of booze. So these milk stouts were absolutely advertised and targeted at nursing mothers and people that are infirm or recovering from injury. So there is a beer style called Invalid Stout that was aimed at exactly that, to sort of get people back up to health. Of course, we know better than that now, and the law is very, very strict on insisting that no positive health properties may be attributed to any kind of beer. And yeah, obviously, if you're a nursing mother, don't drink milk stout. It's probably not the best thing to be having. Like our politicians, I'm also not a doctor. Anyway, excellent stout, Urbanaut, excellent people, chocolatey, delicious, lovely, layered, great time. But I can really ramble this video. For regular viewers, the biggest bit of news from this video will be, hopefully, the audio is a lot better because I just got a new microphone yesterday. So hopefully this has come through and I'm sounding a bit less crackly than usual. So to you people, I can say Purple Monkey Dishwasher. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time. Cheers.